then there's no possible way that things are going to get better. So what I was looking at is saying, we have helped a lot of different organizations with the online strategy. The marketing of the world is completely happening on an internet base and an informational base. And if you don't think so, look to Seattle, that has grown like gangbusters, and look at the top 10 most successful companies in that city. How many of them are technology companies? Anybody have any clue?
I don't know how many, but I can think of one company.
8 of the top 10 are all companies in the technology sector. Okay, so it tells you what's happening right now in the world. So we're not talking about pie in the sky stuff. We're talking about stuff that is the reality of today's business world. Okay, and one of the things that I observed in coming here to the Longview area a couple of years ago, I was born and raised here, and that's what brought me back here, because I love the community and have tons and tons of family here. I observed very quickly after visiting with various business people that one of the shortcomings of this city and the neighboring cities we have here in the seat of the county seat and the county itself is that they're very deficient when it comes to understanding how to survive in this high-tech world. And so, you know what, I said, this is something that I can make a difference in. And how could we go about doing it? And after somebody shared with me what commissioners are paid to do this part-time job that they have, and I'm going, I'm not looking for another job. But if I put together a group of people to help address this issue, myself included, using the partners that I just mentioned earlier as well, and drawing on that expertise and growing this county, what could we do with that commissioner salary? So the immediate idea came, why don't we donate that back in digital marketing services to help companies grow? And so let me share with you what we would be targeting, because I've been asked this question by the Daily News and others out there. And it's like, so where would you, who picks the winners and losers with this program? Who decides what? Now, we've mentioned before that small and medium-sized businesses are the backbone of any community, and that's true here too. So somebody could say we're going to spend years going after an employer who has 500 people or 200 people or whatever. But what happens? Do you have any idea how many small businesses there are in Cowlitz County? What happens when each of them have a need of hiring just one person? We're talking about thousands of jobs, are we not? Absolutely. And so going after small and medium-sized businesses only makes sense, and helping them helps absolutely everybody at the same time. Excuse me. So the types of businesses that become important early on in that game plan are anybody who makes anything and anybody who has a product or service that can be marketed outside this area. And I'll give you an example. There's a gentleman who owns a home-based sign business in this market. I don't mind sharing who it is, and he's actually just visited with him the other day, and he said, Kevin, I'd love to come on your show and tell my story and talk about what we've done, because I've been having a lot of conversation with him going back a year and a half. His name is Carl Kangas, and owns Quality Signs and Design. And
What's his name?
Carl Kangas with Quality Sign and Design. He's the gentleman, by the way, this beautiful backdrop you see in the studio, and the other logos and signs that you see in here. Carl printed all of this. Very talented gentleman. And
I recognize the last name.
Yeah. So when we first had conversation about competing in online with online strategies and marketing outside Cowlitz County, one of his first comments to me, and I don't know if Carl recalls this, but one of his first comments to me was, well, I don't really feel like going outside the area because I'm really picky about my installs, and he's a very hands-on kind of guy. I said, I'm not talking about sign installs. I'm not talking about I'm talking about people that you could ship a sign to or ship decals to, or in California or in Florida or in Texas or wherever. Yeah, and Carl has gone after that online business, and he shared with me just the other day, he is so excited about his business. He started looking at this last October and doing it effectively in his business. And he was so excited about this when he shared with me the other day. He said, Kevin, I now have the reality. He's had a business that's just been him. I now have the reality of being able to hand my business over to my son. We're already looking at, within a short distance down the road, of moving our business into the downtown area and hiring additional people as our business continues to grow, because he's shipping decals and signs as far away as Maine. So how cool is that? That's outside money coming in, and those are those are the exact kind of businesses that you want to target early on with job strategies, because you're bringing outside money in.
Right.
And then at the same token, there's all kinds of other small businesses that are in this area that have retail services or food or products or other things that they sell within the community. Likewise, you do the same thing with those businesses, and the same type of phenomena that Carl's seeing with his business. You're not going to be necessarily selling a hamburger away to somebody in Maine, but somebody who's traveling through this area between Portland and Seattle who's hungry and anywhere in our vicinity and Googles where's a good burger, and all of a sudden somebody with a very effective online strategy says
Carl's in Woodland.
Yeah, with a very effective online strategy is easy for somebody to find. They will pull off the highway for that.
Right.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we start seeing, and then people even in this community itself don't know most of the business people who are here, and that's an unfortunate thing. So we should never have what I've heard from so many business people when they talk about their company and their services. They'll say, "We're the best kept secret in town." And I'm going, that's not an effective marketing program. You shouldn't be the best kept secret. So what we would be doing is focusing on the small and medium sized businesses and making sure that there are no secrets when it comes to our business community, and putting it on the map in a very significant way. And then in the grand scheme of things, let me tell you another way this helps. Because any larger employer looking at this area and wondering, is it viable, are there whatever, and sees literally business after business, hundreds of them competing in a high-tech world, going, wow, that Cowlitz County area is really a cut above, and I'd love to be there with so many progressive people. Right now, we don't have that at all. You look at Cowlitz County, and all you do is find things like Longview and Kelso in the top 10 cities in Longview, or in the state rather, the worst cities to live in, and zero economic growth and all this other things which are huge deterrents. There's an aura around this county that drives people away instead of bringing them in. So there's so many meaningful ways in which a effective job growth strategy will help this county, and working with the small to medium-sized businesses only makes sense. And we're going to help out by donating this commissioner's salary. And I'll tell you this much, you guys, I will do the commissioner's job for 4 years. The first thing I'm going to do when I get into office is plan my going away party, because I will not run for office again. I believe citizens should always be serving in office, and then we roll right into this job creation strategy.
You mentioned something about what you were going to do with your salary. For those of you that might not know, what are you going to do with your salary?
We're gonna donate that salary back. The whole thing. In back in terms of these services that I just talked about, with video marketing, with social media strategies, with SEO, with helping create an effective online presence for all of our businesses here in Cowlitz County. That's what we're going to do with the money.
That's just excellent. I really appreciate it.
Now, hang on. Now, maybe you should, just from experience, paying attention to state reps and stuff like that. Don't you? I think I know you say you want to donate it all, but I would hang on to a little bit of money to. You're gonna have to go out and spend some money to talk to people and things like that. That shouldn't come out of your pocket. I think you should keep some of it, but just think about it. I mean, you deserve something for working hard for the people. But talking about job growth, one of the other topics around here that I know is important to a lot of people, because of how unique our area is tourism and tourism dollars. Is that, do you feel that tourism is important for our area?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And this place is so beautiful. I mean, there's so many venues to go to that are just absolutely amazing in this area. So we should be drawing in all kinds of tourism, but you won't necessarily do that with the aura that we currently have around the county. That has to change. And going back to something else that actually affects tourism and affects the long-term health of the county is that when I look at all the various departments, and we've just been scratching the surface here on this and looking at what the departments are spending in terms of money, you know that Public Works right now alone is relying on about 10% of their budget comes right out of the road tax fund. And that's just one of 19 departments that are there. So how much money is actually being taken away from maintaining and building new roads and infrastructure in this county? It's amazing. So either that they need to stop depending on that money in the departments we have in the county, or we need to stop taxing people for something that we're claiming we're using the money for and not. You could ask me to borrow $100 because you wanted to go take care of your aunt, and then I found out you did this with everybody else in town. And you went and bought yourself a Corvette. I mean, I'd say, Chris, all you had to do was be honest and say you wanted a new car. I'd be okay with that. But don't ask me for money and then go and do something completely opposite with it. And that's what we're seeing with this road tax thing.
Didn't they move some taxation stuff around and kind of like borrowed money from one fund and put it into another one last year?
There's all kinds of that stuff
all
happening.
the time.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know how often the county does it, but the city, every time something goes bad, they declare an emergency. Because you have to declare an emergency to get some of these funds, so they're just constantly declaring emergencies when they're not emergencies. They change the term in the codes, so you don't have to call it something that it's obviously not. If you're just having to do this to get the money unlocked.
Can I give you guys an example of a politician just really losing touch when it comes to this job creation thing?
Yeah, I'm always down.
I was at the Lincoln Day dinner on Saturday. I was invited there as a guest by the Republican Party, and I was more than happy to go anytime Wayne Allen Root is in town and wants to visit. I'm very interested in hearing what the guy has to say. He's a brilliant guy. So there was a document that Dennis Weber handed out to people there. And interestingly enough, the title on the top of the document, and you guarantee it was driven by the publication that I made last Friday with my video. On the top, it said, it's about jobs, jobs, jobs. And I thought, amazing. A guy who really has no experience now thinks that a week and a half later that it actually is about jobs. And it hasn't been about jobs for him in 35 years that he's been in office. And to demonstrate that it hasn't been a focus of his, he and Karnofsky worked on the strategic plan for 3.5 years. And do you think there is a clear plan for job creation in that 45 pages of strategic plan?
No, those guys couldn't create jobs.
No, there isn't.
Their idea of creating a job.
So this is absolutely hilarious. If somebody says jobs, jobs, jobs is what I stand out, don't you think that would have been a really focal point in the strategic plan, but somehow they forgot about it?
No, those guys are good at creating government jobs.
So then when you looked at this document underneath the heading where it said jobs, 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 underneath the heading, the only thing that even remotely ties to economic development and job creation is he alludes to his participation as a board member at St. John's and Peace Health. And he says an organization that has 1,900 employees. Now, you know something? I don't know if you guys sit on any boards anywhere in advisory capacity with any organizations, but before coming back to this area in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, I was on the advisory board for 2 major universities with combined together have about 20 campuses. Now, what I should be saying, if by being on a board for something you get credit for what happens there, is that I have to go back and look. I'm sure there's tens of thousands of students that graduated that I deserve direct credit for, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so to make this claim that because you're on a board that you have the credit for what happened there, this is about as absurd because most people in advisory capacities on boards are really so disconnected from the operation and the day-to-day things that go on there that to give you an illustration of how absurd this kind of a claim really is, if I happen to show up in the Winco parking lot one evening and let's say there was an active robbery underway and the person comes out of the store with the money and takes off and scoots away in their car and the police show up moments later and say, what happened? I raise my hand and say, I did it. And they're going, wait a minute, we just looked at the cameras in the parking lot and you weren't involved at all. And I said, I know, but I was here.
I know.
I'm the one who did it. You know, and that's as absurd as Dennis Weber saying, well, I was on the board and this place has 1,900 employees. Well, I'll agree, you were there.
That's great.
So one of my ideas for job growth and economic growth in this area would to just what I said in the Daily News, off the top of my head, a 5 to 10 year tax moratorium for incoming businesses. I would imagine if you were a company looking around at various counties to set up shop in, and you came to one that is offering a tax moratorium, I would take full advantage of that. I don't see why anybody else wouldn't. So
Wayne Allen Root would actually agree with you 100% on that. He actually in his speech that he gave at the Expo Center on Saturday said that one of the pieces of advice that he had given Donald Trump, because he believes Donald Trump is going to win, one of the pieces of advice he had given Donald Trump was to cancel the tax on the middle class in the United States for a full year to help people get back on their feet. And Trump was in favor of that. He said, I think that's a great idea. And you go, well, actually,